Some new information in a story we've been following closely. The murder of a Florida State University law professor. Dan Markel was shot and killed in the driveway of his home in Tallahassee in the summer of 2014. More than 2 years later, prosecutors cut a deal with a known gang leader, Luis Rivera. Rivera confessed to supplying the gun, driving the car, and said his co-defendant in the case pulled the trigger, all while pointing authorities to a third suspect. In exchange for his information, Rivera will serve an additional 7 years in prison on top of a 12-year federal sentence served in an unrelated case. Let's bring in Wendy Patrick, a veteran prosecutor and trial attorney. Brian Claypool is a criminal defense attorney. Wendy, why would prosecutors offer this guy a deal? He was facing several counts of second-degree murder. Now he's going to do an extra 7 years. Why?
That's right. You know, it's a great question that unfortunately we have to face, especially in cases where you've got something like a murder for hire. In other words, there's much that went on behind the scenes that we have no way of knowing about unless we gather some kind of cooperation. In fact, the prosecutor in this particular case said it very well. She called it a necessary evil. So you're dealing with the devil. You've got to decide where's the hot seat going to be, in the defendant's chair or in the witness stand. And sometimes in the pursuit of justice, you've got to make that decision to hold somebody accountable for a heinous crime such as this.
We mentioned yesterday, Brian, a woman named Catherine Magbonwa. She was just arrested over the weekend. She seems to be, according to prosecutors, some kind of an intermediary. And it is said that his information is what led authorities to her. But we know from court filings that the suspects were calling her cell phone from their cell phone. Why would it be so difficult for authorities to get information about her? They could have gotten that with a court order to look at the phone records, couldn't they?
Exactly, John. And I really believe that the prosecutor in this case was auditioning for a reality show, and the name of that reality show is called Jungle Justice. That's what we have here. We've got a deal cut in the woods here between a prosecutor and a convicted gangster, a career criminal, who played an integral part. He's a co-conspirator in murdering Dan Harkle in cold blood, John. They followed him on the freeway. They've got surveillance of that. Cold-blooded murder. This guy gets 7 years, and you just made a great point. It's like the Green Bay Packers trading Aaron Rodgers to the Pittsburgh Steelers for me. That's what the prosecutor just did here. They cut this pathetic deal with this murderer, and what did they get in return? They didn't get anything that they couldn't have otherwise gotten had they done their due diligence, had they worked harder on this case, and been more vigilant in generating evidence. This was a lazy plea deal.
Very quickly, Wendy, Sigfredo Garcia is the guy who is now facing the murder rap. The guy who just got the sweet deal from prosecutors said Garcia was actually the murderer. How do they know that? I mean, it's sort of one bad guy's testimony against another, isn't it?
That's right. And let me respond to my esteemed colleague, Brian, here. He and I have both been criminal defense attorneys. And one of the things that we know is you never really know exactly what's going to happen once the trial starts. In other words, you'll notice one of the things the prosecutor said in this case is you're going to have to wait for the evidence. The three of us, we can brainstorm and speculate who knows what and who's going to testify to what. But I wouldn't be surprised if there actually were very good reasons that they did what they did. Obviously, they can't disclose them now. We've got criminal proceedings to go through. But as the trial progresses, certainly we don't want to compromise that prosecution. I have a feeling we're going to get some more of those questions answered as to why they couldn't simply rely on the state of the evidence.
Back with our legal panel in just a moment.